Hello guys, welcome to the Sleepy Theorist, where we don't just fall asleep, we gently unravel the deepest mysteries stitched into our minds, our stars, and our stories. Tonight's journey doesn't begin in outer space. It begins inside your head, inside the quiet folds of your own thoughts. You believe your mind is yours, private, sealed, safe behind your skull. But what if I told you it isn't? What if your memories could be rewritten, your desires planted, your attention stolen without you ever noticing? This isn't science fiction. It's modern neuroscience, gentle and chilling, the study of how your brain learns, bends, obeys, and resists. You're not being hypnotized, but your feed already knows when you're tired. Your apps know what color makes you click. Your habits are being shaped not by force, but by design. This is the science of influence, of soft control, and maybe, just maybe, of hacking. So if your thoughts begin to wander, let them. But if something inside you stays wide awake, curious, unsettled, quietly alert, I'll be right here, whispering the truth. Tap like if you've ever wondered who's really steering your mind. Subscribe, and we'll explore it together. Let's begin with the first flicker of doubt. Inside your skull hums a quiet miracle. Billions of neurons, flickering with light, pulse in rhythm like stars in a hidden galaxy. Thought itself is made of electricity and chemistry, yet it feels like something more, something sacred. But could this rhythm, this pulse of your mind, be tuned from the outside? Could your inner world be touched without you even noticing? It begins with the softest sound, not a word or a whisper, but the gentle pulse inside you. Your chest rises and falls. Your body becomes still. And somewhere within the folds of your brain, a storm of electric impulses continues to spark and hum, even as your muscles relax, even as the day fades. The brain does not sleep. It watches, it waits, it listens. Imagine a city at night, quiet but glowing. Streetlights blink silently, windows shimmer with soft light. Beneath the stillness, activity continues, quiet, organized, electric. That is your brain now, awake even in silence, alive even in stillness. Thought does not need movement to exist. It happens in the quiet. It happens when you're not trying. Each flicker is a message. Each tiny burst of light is a word between neurons. Some signals leap from one region to another, like travelers crossing bridges. Others loop gently inside circuits you've built through years of living. Happiness is not a command. It's a combination of neural fire. Fear is not a decision. It's a path your brain knows how to follow. When you recall a loved one's voice, it's not echoing from the past, it's being reassembled in real time, built from sparks, feeling, and memory. But what if those sparks could be shifted? What if a single image made you hungry? What if a specific word made you feel safe? You begin to see how your mind, for all its power, is vulnerable, not because it is weak, but because it is open. You are not a fortress. You are a field. You are porous. Ideas seep into you like water into earth, slowly, quietly, repeatedly, and once inside, they take root. Yet even with all this openness, something sacred still holds. The whispering machine in your head does not bend without reason. It evaluates. It questions. It adjusts. It resists in ways so subtle you might never see them. The brain is not easily controlled, but it is deeply influenced. Look at your thoughts. Do you create them, or do they arrive uninvited? A smell brings you back to childhood. A familiar song moves you to tears. A sudden feeling rises before any words explain it. These thoughts don't wait for you to call them. They come because something deep inside you recognized a pattern. You are not always the thinker, you are often the witness. Every second, your brain receives a flood of data, light, sound, motion, temperature. It filters, organizes, and guesses what it all means. This guessing is what we call perception. The brain never simply sees, it interprets. It compares what enters through your senses to what it already knows, and then shapes your experience. From that mixture, even now, as you hear these words, your brain is adjusting its rhythm to match the sound. Your breath slows, your muscles soften. The words create not just understanding, but feeling. This is the tuning of the whispering machine. It harmonizes with its environment, without force, without decision. What makes your brain powerful is not its complexity alone, but its softness. It is flexible. It is always learning, even when you are resting, even when you are dreaming. Even when you imagine something that doesn't exist, the brain builds new pathways, new patterns. This ability is what makes you human, and it's also what makes you open to influence. Imagination is a quiet door. When you picture something, a place, a sound, a future, your brain lights up as if you were actually there. The mind cannot always tell the difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined. That's where stories begin to shape you. Not just entertain you, but enter you. Influence does not need to knock loudly. It only needs to come disguised as something familiar, something soft, a metaphor, a melody, a memory. Stories matter not because they are true, but because they feel true. They follow shapes your brain already understands, and so the brain lets them in, accepts them, holds them, and often remembers them longer than it remembers facts. That is how belief forms, not through logic, but through resonance. But even as new patterns form, the original rhythm remains. You may be nudged, you may be trained, you may even be rewired slowly over time. But within you still lives something that listens, something that remembers what came before. A stillness that watches. You are not lost in your machine. You are the one who listens to it. The thoughts, the feelings, the signals, all of them are yours. But you are not only them. You are also the awareness beneath them. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. Even when you do nothing, your brain is busy. It replays your day. Memories. It prepares for dreams. It learns. It heals. And in the quiet space between one thought and the next, there is a breath. A pause. A space so still that you may not even notice it unless you look for it. But it is there, always there. And in that space lives your peace. Peace does not come from controlling every thought. It comes from witnessing them, letting them pass like wind through tall grass, letting them float like mist across water. In that gentle awareness, you begin to understand what it means to live with your mind, not in fear of it, but in harmony with it. This chapter began with a question. Could the brain be changed from the outside? You have seen now that it can. Repetition can shape it. Imagination can shift it. Suggestion can guide it. But this is not a danger. It is an invitation to notice, to choose more gently, to become aware of what shapes you so that you can shape it back. Now you are no longer asleep inside your machine. You are awake to it. You are listening to it. And just as the brain can be touched, it can also be guided, healed, and protected. You are not just the story being written. You are also the one holding the pen. Let that awareness settle now. Let it soften your breath. Let it warm your body. Beneath all the mental noise, beneath the flashes of thought, there is stillness, there is calm, and there is you. As sleep begins to take your body and your mind slips into quieter rhythms, the whispering machine continues its gentle hum. It carries you forward, into memory, into dream. And just as you rest, a new thought begins to stir in the silence. What if your mind doesn't wait for commands? What if it moves in patterns? And what if those patterns can be guided, not with force, but with understanding? You wake each morning not with a blank slate, but with a quiet rhythm already humming inside you. Your thoughts, even before your eyes open, are not new. They are inherited from the day before. The same paths, the same fears, the same hopes. The brain loves patterns more than it loves truth. It clings to what is familiar, not because it is right, but because it feels safe. Think of your mind as a soft path through a forest. Each step you take carves the ground a little deeper. Walk that same route enough times, and it becomes a trail, easy, automatic. Your thoughts follow trails like these. Habits of thinking, habits of feeling. And once a trail is carved, it becomes your reality. You might think you make conscious decisions, and sometimes you do, but more often, your mind is a machine of anticipation. It predicts what comes next, based on what came before. When someone frowns at you, your brain doesn't ask what it means. It guesses, quickly, based on old maps, old stories, maybe even pain you no longer remember. This prediction machine is efficient. It keeps you safe. It helps you learn. But it also traps you. Because once a pattern is formed, your brain stops looking for new information. It only looks for what fits. It edits the world to match its story. It hears what it expects. It sees what it has seen before. Even if something new is offered, the old pattern may reject it. Now imagine trying to guide such a mind, not through commands, but through suggestion, through repetition, through gentle familiarity. The most powerful influence does not come as a shout. It comes as a whisper that sounds like something you've heard 1,000 times. Consider music. When a melody repeats, your brain predicts the next note. It finds pleasure in the accuracy of its guess. That pleasure reinforces the pattern. It craves more of it. In the same way, your thoughts crave reinforcement, not from logic, from rhythm. That's why stories are powerful, not because they are true. They are true. But because they follow shapes the brain already knows. The hero rises, the villain falls. The lesson arrives just in time. Your brain leans into that structure, not because it's real, but because it's comfortable. Now think about fear. If you felt afraid once when you heard a sound even years ago, your brain remembers. It maps the fear to the sound. And now, whenever that sound appears, even faintly, your body reacts. Your thoughts adjust. Not because danger is near, but because the pattern tells you it might be. And so much of what we call influence is really pattern recognition. Advertisers know this. Politicians know this. Designers, writers, even strangers who want your attention, they all use rhythm. Familiar language, familiar visuals, familiar emotion. Because if your brain can predict the next moment, it opens up to receive it. It trusts it, even if it should not. You can see this in language. Finish this sentence. Once upon your brain knew the answer before your conscious mind did. That is not magic. That is a pattern, and your brain loves patterns. But this truth is not frightening. It is freeing. Because once you see it, you begin to notice the loops, the phrases that always come, the thoughts that always follow certain feelings, the way a mood can take over before you even know why. This noticing is the first soft step toward understanding. You might wonder how much of you is truly yours. If you are built of patterns, are you just repeating what you've been taught? In many ways, yes, but within you lives the capacity to reshape those patterns, to pause before the next note, to ask, is this loop helping me or harming me? Is it leading me to truth or just protecting me from the unknown? You are not a prisoner of your patterns. You are their observer, and in that observation lies your power. When you feel sad without reason, your brain is pulling from an old script. When you assume someone dislikes you before they've spoken, it is a pattern speaking, not reality. When you resist change, even when you long for it, it is because the trail is old and worn, and new paths are harder to walk. But they can be walked, slowly, with kindness, with repetition, the same way the first pattern was formed. This is how influence works, not through force, but through invitation. The more you see an idea, the more you accept it. The more you hear a voice, the more you believe it. This is neither good nor bad. It simply is. And understanding it allows you to choose what voices you let in, what stories you rehearse, what thoughts you feed. Think of a plant growing toward the light. It bends not because it decides, but because it is drawn. Your thoughts bend too, toward the ideas they are shown again and again. If you surround yourself with noise, your mind will echo it. If you surround yourself with calm, your mind will reflect it. This does not mean you must be perfect. It only means you must be gentle, patient, curious. You do not need to command your brain. You only need to show it a new way, often enough that it begins to trust the path. And one day, a thought that used to hurt may come and pass without staying. One day, an old fear may arise, and you will watch it, not react to it. One day, a belief that kept you small may dissolve under the light of new experience. That is not magic. That is pattern gently rewritten. Even now, your mind is changing. As you listen, as you reflect, new paths are lighting up. Not because I have said anything special, but because you are listening in a new way. You are noticing the rhythm. You are feeling the quiet repetition. You are remembering that your thoughts are not commands, they are currents, and you can learn to swim in them, not against them, with them, just with more awareness. Let your mind soften. Let the day's noise fall away. Let your breath guide the rhythm, and notice what comes next. Notice the thoughts that rise. Notice their shape, their tone. Do not fight them, just see them as patterns, as passing things, because every pattern begins somewhere. Every loop has a first step, and when you become the one who notices the step, you can also be the one who chooses another. You are not stuck, you are in motion, and that motion is yours to follow. Let it carry you now, softly, without force, without judgment. And as you drift deeper into this gentle noticing, a new question begins to glow faintly ahead. If your mind is shaped by pattern, then what happens when the pattern of memory itself becomes unreliable? What happens when what you recall may not be what truly was? And if memory can be rewritten from the outside, then whose story are you really remembering? Your memories feel like anchors, solid, familiar, yours. They shape your identity. They tell you where you've been, what you've felt, and who you are. But the truth is softer than that. Your memories are not stone, they are clay. Every time you recall one, you reshape it, without knowing, without meaning to, without asking. The moment you retrieve a memory, your brain pulls it from storage and brings it forward for display. But it doesn't come alone. It arrives with feelings, colors, smells, echoes of how you felt at the time and how you feel now. Then, as you put the memory back, it's not placed exactly as it was. It's edited, gently. A word changes, a detail fades. A face becomes softer or harsher. What was once true becomes a blend of what happened and what you now believe. This is not a flaw, it's how memory works. The brain does not store moments like a camera. It stores impressions and meaning. If a moment hurt you, that pain will color the memory. If a moment made you feel safe, it may become warmer than it actually was. Your brain is not trying to lie, it is trying to protect you. But it means this: the story you carry about yourself may not be perfectly accurate. You remember the time you were laughed at, but not the look of apology someone gave you right after. You remember being afraid, but not how brave you were to speak anyway. Memory selects what matters, and sometimes what mattered was fear. Now, imagine this. What if someone gently suggested a different version of a moment? What if they reminded you of something that never really happened, but your brain accepted it because it sounded right, because it fit the pattern? It happens more than you think. False memories aren't rare, they're normal. Research has shown that people can be led to remember things that never occurred. A simple story, told with enough confidence and detail, can weave itself into your mental history. Later, when you recall it, it feels real. You may even see it clearly. But the scene was borrowed or planted, and yet it becomes yours. You're not broken for this. You're human. Your brain prioritizes coherence over accuracy. It wants your story to make sense. So it smooths the edges, fills in the blanks, connects the dots. It believes what fits, not always what's true. This is why eyewitnesses can disagree. Why siblings remember childhood differently. Why two people who lived the same event carry entirely different emotional truths about it. The event happened once, but the memory of it happened 100 times, changed, colored, retold. Now think of the stories others have told you about yourself. You were always the shy one. You were so dramatic, you never listened. Sometimes you adopt these lines without question, and slowly your memories adjust to match them. You begin to see yourself through borrowed lenses, and the brain, always eager for consistency, reshapes the past accordingly. This is not manipulation in the harshest sense. Often, it is unconscious. Parents' careless comment, a teacher's opinion, a friend's retelling of a shared day. These things settle in your mind, and they grow roots. But what does this mean for you now? It means that your story is not fixed. It is still being written. You are still the author, even if parts of the past feel like they belong to someone else. You can revisit old scenes with new eyes. You can question what you've believed for years. You can soften the harshness. You can brighten the forgotten warmth. Think of a favorite photo from long ago. You remember the moment, the laughter, the wind, the light, but do you remember what happened right after, or just before? The photo captures a frame. Your mind fills in the rest. But the rest is guesswork, memory, emotion. This is not a weakness. It's a beautiful part of being alive. Memory is not meant to be perfect. It's meant to give you a sense of self. It's a mirror that reflects who you are becoming, not just who you were. And, just like a mirror, it can be foggy, or distorted, or framed by the light you choose to bring to it. So be gentle with your past. You are not your worst day. You are not the voice that once doubted you. You are not just the mistakes you replay. In the quiet of night, those memories may return again and again, but they are not fixed. They can change. They already have. Healing does not require forgetting. It requires seeing differently. It means stepping back and asking, is this memory helping me? Is it true or just familiar? Even more interesting, some memories aren't yours at all. Stories your parents told you, events you've only seen in photographs, dreams you had as a child that feel as real as waking life. Your mind doesn't always label them clearly. Sometimes They sit in the same drawer as lived experience. They shape you anyway. Culture adds its own layer. The stories of your community, your country, your history, they become part of you, too. You feel them as if you were there. They influence your identity. They shape your sense of right and wrong, of fear and hope. And though you didn't live those memories, they live in you. Memory is not just personal. It's collective, emotional, shared. This means that influence is not just about today. It reaches back. It touches memory. It reshapes the past, and through that, it quietly changes the future. But remember this. If memory can be shaped from the outside, it can also be softened from within. You can offer kindness to your younger self. You can revisit hard moments and bring compassion into them. You can rewrite the feeling even if you can't change the facts. And you can choose whose voices get to echo in your story. Not everyone deserves that power. Tonight, as you rest, your mind may wander backward. A scene may return, a face, a sound. You might feel something stir in your chest, regret, longing, shame, love. Don't resist it. Watch it. Listen to it. Then ask, is this memory asking to be protected or to be rewritten? You are not a prisoner of the past. You are its editor, its guardian, its poet. The past will always be there, but your relationship to it, that changes, that grows, that softens. With time and truth, let that bring you peace. Breathe deeply now. Feel your body supported beneath you. Feel the slow rhythm of your chest. Let your memories rise if they come. Let them pass if they don't. You are safe here. You are home here. And whatever has come before, you are the one who chooses how it's carried. And as your thoughts quiet, as the night deepens, a new question emerges gently from the silence. If attention creates your world, what happens when that attention is pulled, scattered, or stolen? There is a quiet force inside your mind. It is not thought. It is not emotion. It is attention. And though it feels simple, it is one of the most powerful tools your brain possesses, because what you focus on becomes your world. Look at a single flower, and suddenly everything else fades. Noise softens. Backgrounds blur. The details bloom. The texture of petals, the dance of light, the subtle shift of color. Now, shift your attention to your breath. The flower vanishes. The air becomes the story. This is not magic. It is the code beneath perception. Your brain cannot process everything. At every second, you are surrounded by sounds, smells, colors, movements, ideas, but your mind chooses what enters your conscious world. This choosing is attention. It selects, it edits, it curates your reality. Think of your mind like a spotlight on a dark stage. Wherever the beam falls, that becomes the scene. Everything else still there, still real, stays in the dark, waiting. And here's the secret. The spotlight is easy to move. A sound, a flash, a word, a question. These are cues that shift your gaze without you noticing. This is how influence works. Not by shouting, but by pointing. Modern life is full of fingers pointing in every direction. Notifications, headlines, alerts, vibrations. Each one says, look here. Each one tries to hijack your spotlight. Not to harm you, not always, but to win your gaze. Because attention is currency, and where attention goes, action follows. Your decisions, your purchases, your beliefs, they all begin with what you notice. If a message catches your eye 3 times, your brain starts to assume it matters. If a story appears in bold letters, your mind leans in. It doesn't ask, is this true? It asks, is this important? Because attention is a shortcut. a signal of relevance. Your brain trusts what it sees repeatedly. This is not weakness, it's efficiency. Imagine being in a crowd and someone says your name. Instantly, your head turns. That's selective attention. The brain's way of filtering for what matters. But once something enters the filter, it becomes powerful. It becomes part of your narrative. Think of a time you were feeling low. You might have noticed more sadness around you, more cloudy skies, more silence and voices. That wasn't the world changing. It was your attention adjusting the colors. This is what your brain does. It builds your reality not from what exists, but from what you notice. Now, imagine that attention is being guided gently, invisibly by outside hands, algorithms that learn. What makes your eyes linger? Headlines that trigger strong emotion. Designs built to trap your scroll. You are not being forced. You are being nudged. And your brain, following its own rules, says yes. Even a small nudge is powerful, because once you look, you begin to believe. And once you believe, you start to act. This is the code beneath attention. Not mind control, not force, but momentum. If you see something often enough, it feels real. If you hear an idea in enough places, it begins to sound like your own thought. It's not just screens that guide attention. People do it too. Watch. A crowd look up at the sky. Soon, you look too. You don't want to miss what they see. It's called social attention, the brain's way of syncing with others. Because shared focus builds trust, builds meaning, builds belief. Attention is social glue. When many people focus on the same thing, it gains power. It shapes culture. It creates trends. It becomes truth in collective memory. But there's more. The brain doesn't just highlight what you look at. It also filters what you don't. Inattention, blindness, a well-documented phenomenon, shows that we can miss massive, obvious things simply because we weren't looking. A clown on a unicycle. A gorilla walking through a scene. Entire conversations gone if the spotlight is elsewhere. This means that the world you think you live in is only a sliver of what exists. Not because you're not smart, but because you're human, because the mind must choose, and choice can be influenced. There's a story in the way colors affect your gaze. Red draws you in, blue calms you, yellow alerts. Designers know this, brands know this. Entire cities are built with attention in mind, signs placed at eye level, lighting arranged to create flow, sounds designed to pause your step. Even your memories are shaped by attention. You don't remember everything. You remember what you focused on, that smile, that word, that single moment in the middle of a busy day. And because you noticed it, it grew. So what does this mean for you? It means that attention is a kind of power. Quiet, invisible, but immense. If you can learn to guide it, you can reshape how you feel, how you think, even how you remember. This is not about control, it's about awareness. When you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask, what am I focusing on? When the world feels dark, ask, what am I feeding my gaze? When a single thought loops in your mind, notice, is it demanding attention, or is it deserving of it? You are not helpless. Your spotlight belongs to you. Meditation teaches this gently. It's not the act of stopping thought. It's the practice of choosing where attention rests. On the breath, on sound, on stillness. And when it drifts, as it always does, you bring it back. Again and again. That's not failure. That's training. That's strength. Because the brain is flexible. The code can be rewritten. You can shift the spotlight. Attention is not just about focus. It's also about absence. What you don't look at fades. What you ignore loses color. This is why letting go is powerful. It is the act of turning your gaze elsewhere, not forgetting, but choosing not to feed the fire. And when enough attention moves away from fear, from noise, from lies, those things begin to shrink. So be mindful of what you watch, what you listen to, what you follow. These things are not passive. They become your thoughts, your beliefs, your world. Not all attention is worth giving. Some things scream for your gaze, but you can say no. You can turn inward. You can rest the spotlight on a tree, on a breath, on the steady rise and fall of now. And in that choice, you reclaim something sacred. So let your breath be the anchor now. Let your gaze soften. Let your thoughts wander like clouds, and then return gently, kindly to this moment, to this space, to this calm. You are not what you notice. You are the one who chooses what to notice. And as you sink deeper into this gentle stillness, another question rises. If attention can shape your world, what happens when influence begins before you even notice it? What if a single word, a color, a scent, could plant an idea inside you before thought even begins? There are moments when you feel something before you can explain it. You see a color, hear a note, smell something familiar, and suddenly your mood shifts. Nothing obvious has happened, but your choices feel changed. Your thoughts take a different road. This is priming. It is the art of influence without force. It is how the world can tilt you quietly, invisibly, with the smallest touch. Imagine walking into a room filled with the scent of baking bread. You weren't hungry. You weren't thinking about food. But now your mouth waters. You feel warm, nostalgic, maybe. And when someone asks if you'd like to sit and talk, you say yes. Not because of logic, but because something inside you softened. Something was primed. Your brain reacts before you do. Priming happens below consciousness. It is not control. It is readiness. A small nudge that sets your next thought in motion. You are not being tricked. You are being tuned. Words can do this. If you hear the word old, your body slows ever so slightly. If you read rude, your mind prepares for defensiveness. Not because you decide, but because the brain adjusts its filters before you even know it. This is how context shapes behavior. A tidy room makes people more honest. Soft music encourages patience. Bright red can speed up decision-making. These are not laws, but patterns. Subtle, measurable, and quietly persuasive. Think of it like footsteps in fresh snow. If a path is already worn, you are more likely to follow it. Priming lays those first. Footprints before you arrive. Advertisers know this. They show you images of laughter and connection before showing their product. Your brain links the feelings to the brand. Later, you remember the warmth, not the ad. But the ad shaped you just. The same even language carries this quiet power. Quiet power. In one study, people who read words related to aging, wrinkle, Florida, cane, walked more slowly afterward. They didn't notice, but their brains did. Another group primed with words like achievement and effort worked harder on a task, unaware. They'd been influenced. This is not magic. It is association. The brain builds bridges between things that appear together. And once the bridge is there, thoughts travel more easily across it. You might think, but I'm aware. I notice things. And you do. But priming works beneath that awareness. It touches the soil, not the plant. It shifts the roots, not the leaves. Now think about memory. If you are shown a word related to kindness, and later asked about a stranger's behavior, you are more likely to interpret it kindly, because the lens has been colored, the frame has been changed. We all wear invisible glasses, tinted by recent sights, sounds, moods, and those glasses alter how we judge the world. This is why timing matters, why mood matters, why a compliment lands differently in the morning than at night. Because priming prepares the ground, it sets the emotional temperature. You may not remember the prime, the scent, the word, the glance, but your brain holds it, processes it, acts on it. And it's not just the outside world that primes you. You prime yourself. A memory, a song, a word you whisper in your own mind. All of these nudge your path before your next step. This is where awareness becomes your superpower. Because once you notice priming, you can begin to use it, not to manipulate others, but to care for yourself. Before a hard conversation, listen to a song that soothes you. Before a stressful task, speak words of strength. Before meeting someone, think of a time you felt understood. These are not tricks, they are tools. They shape how you show up. Even your breath can be a prime. A long exhale tells your nervous system that you are safe, and then safety becomes your lens. You become more patient, more open, more present. It also means you can protect yourself from unhelpful primes. You don't have to scroll endlessly. Before sleep, you don't have to start your morning with noise. You don't have to let headlines set your tone. These things leave marks. They bend your attention, and from there, your thoughts. Imagine your brain like a field. What you expose, it too plants seeds. Some grow fast, some grow quietly, but they all take root. Choose your seeds with care. Let poetry be a prime. Let nature be a prime. Let silence prime you for peace. Even now, as you listen to these words, your mind is being gently guided, not forced, not controlled, but softened, opened, primed to receive calm, primed to welcome stillness. This is the gentle art, the sacred, soft shaping, not through dominance, through direction. There is peace in knowing that your mind is not static. It is living, breathing, responding, and that response can be guided by love. A child's laughter can prime a whole day. A stranger's smile can soften a hardened heart. A few kind words can make your brain more generous. These are ripples. This is influence. This is connection. You are not powerless. You are porous. But in that openness is strength, because you can learn to choose. You can walk into a room and place your own image on the wall. You can speak your own word into the air. You can breathe your own calm into the chaos. This is not resistance. It is redirection. You are the steward of your inner weather. You decide which clouds to chase, which suns to follow. Priming doesn't take that away. It reminds you that every moment is a beginning, and you get to choose how it begins. So let this moment be soft. Let the sound of your breath become the first prime. Let the rhythm of your heartbeat become the second. Let the stillness around you set the tone for what comes next. Feel the fabric beneath you. Feel the air touching your skin. These two are primes, grounding, gentle, real. Let them shape your next thought. Let them lead you not away, but inward. Not outward, but deeper. And as your thoughts slow, as sleep begins to pull you closer, a new question quietly opens. If the mind responds to invisible cues, what happens when those cues are everywhere? When sound itself becomes a guide, when music, tone, and voice begin to shape the mind beneath the words. There is a truth hidden beneath your daily thoughts, a quiet, powerful truth. Your brain is always changing. Even now, as you rest, as your breath slows, as your eyelids grow heavy, inside your head, a forest of neurons rewires itself. It grows, sheds, connects, without force, without noise. This is neuroplasticity. The ability of your brain to reshape itself, to adapt, to bend without breaking, to learn without knowing that it learns. Imagine a soft river flowing through a valley. Every experience, you have every word, every sound, every touch drops a pebble into that river. Some pebbles are small, some are stones, and over time, the water begins to change its path. It curves, splits, joins again. This is how the mind reshapes itself. You are not born with a finished brain. You are born with a sculptor, a quiet artist who keeps shaping, gently, moment by moment. Your habits carve new paths. Your focus strengthens. Then, what you repeat becomes easier. What you stop doing fades. This is why learning is possible, why healing is possible, why nothing inside you is completely stuck. When you learn a new language, new pathways grow. When you play an instrument, or ride a bike, or memorize a poem, your brain doesn't just store information, it builds new wiring. It connects regions that once worked alone. It weaves thought with movement, feeling with sound, memory with meaning. Even the act of imagining something can strengthen these paths. When you rehearse a skill in your mind, the brain treats it like practice. The neural bridges form, even without movement, because the brain believes what it rehearses. This plasticity is the source of your growth, but it is also the source of your vulnerability, because the brain rewires in all directions. Repeated stress builds its own pathways. Fear repeated becomes familiar. A lie heard often enough feels true, and small hurts, if unhealed, can form grooves where your thoughts tend to settle. This doesn't mean you are broken. It means your brain is doing what it was built to do. Adapt. The challenge is not to stop the rewiring. The challenge is to choose what gets repeated. What do you feed your mind over and over? What images do you return to? What thoughts echo the loudest? Because what repeats rewears. But there's good news hidden here. If the brain can be shaped by hurt, it can also be shaped by care. Kindness rewires too. So does gratitude. So does presence and silence. Even resting like this, letting your mind drift gently, your body softening, is a kind of healing. A signal to your nervous system that you are safe, that you can restore, that you can rebuild. And when you sleep, your brain becomes a quiet gardener. It trims unused connections. It strengthens the paths you walked during the day. It clears debris. It lays groundwork for tomorrow's learning. Every dream, every deep breath, every calm moment contributes to your shape. You are never stuck. This is the deepest comfort of neuroplasticity. It means nothing is permanent unless it is nourished. Old habits can weaken. New patterns can form. The self you meet tomorrow is not identical to the one you meet tonight. Think of someone recovering from a stroke. Parts of the brain may go dark, but other regions learn to help. The mind reroutes, rebuilds. What was lost is not always gone forever. Plasticity finds another way. The same is true for emotional wounds. When you experience trauma, the brain may build fast roads to fear, triggers that bypass thought and go straight to reaction. But healing is possible here too. With care, with therapy, with time, new paths emerge. The reaction slows. The fear softens. The light returns. Plasticity means you are not the product of one moment. You are the product of many. And every moment forward offers the chance to change course. This is how habits form, not all at once, but gently, repeated steps. Reinforced paths. Think of a forest trail. The more often you walk it, the clearer it becomes. The grass bends. The dirt compacts. Eventually, your feet know the way without asking. The same is true in your brain. If you speak harshly to yourself each day, those thoughts grow roots. If you speak kindly, those words become stronger. If you pause, breathe, and choose again. Even once the pattern shifts, you do not need to change everything at once. The brain does not require force. It responds to consistency. So choose one small thing, a breath, a word, a moment of quiet each day. That is enough to begin the shift. Even awareness rewires. Simply noticing your thoughts, not judging, just observing, begins to loosen the grip of old patterns. You watch. The thought come, and you don't feed it. You let it pass. You let the silence return. That is a rewiring. That is strength. This truth applies not only to thought, but to feeling. You are not always angry. You are not always sad. You are not always afraid. These are states. They move. They shift. And how you meet them determines what stays. Feelings are visitors. Your brain learns from them, but you are the host. You decide who lingers. And when you show your brain peace, it remembers. It writes that peace into its pathways. Even this moment, lying still, breathing slow, is writing itself into your inner map. Your brain is not fighting you. It is listening. It is learning. Always. This is why you can change, not because of willpower, but because of design. You are made for adaptation. You are built for evolution. Inside you lives a landscape that reshapes itself with love, with learning, with experience. And when that reshaping happens in the direction of healing, it becomes transformation. Let that truth soften your doubts. Let it wrap around you like warmth. You are not fixed. You are fluid. And your fluidity is your strength. Even when you forget, your brain remembers the way back. Let tonight be a part of your rewiring. Let these words settle into your quiet mind. Let sleep begin the gentle rebuilding, because even in stillness, you are becoming. Even in darkness, your mind is working toward light. And as you drift deeper into calm, another thought begins to rise, like mist on morning water. If your brain adapts so easily, what lives beneath the surface of thought? What old currents shape you, even when you're not thinking at all? You take a breath. You do not tell your body to do it, it just knows. Your heart beats, your stomach digests, your muscles shift to keep you balanced as you lie still. All of this happens without thought, without instruction. There is a part of you that never sleeps, that never asks for permission, that simply knows. This is your subconscious. It is not some distant shadow. It is the deep foundation under your waking mind. And while your conscious thoughts flicker like candlelight, the subconscious burns like a quiet fire beneath them. It controls more than you think. Not just your breath and your heartbeat. Not just your sleep rhythms or your blinking. It controls your habits, your reactions, your sense of safety, your posture, your cravings, the way your face softens when someone smiles, the way your hands tremble in danger, even when your words sigh you're fine, and it doesn't speak in language. It speaks in patterns, in repetition, in sensation. It remembers what hurt, what helped, what kept you alive. It doesn't judge, it records. And when faced with something new, it reaches back, searches its archive, and whispers to your body how to respond. It is ancient, fast, efficient. If your conscious mind is like a slow, careful narrator, your subconscious is the stagehand moving set, adjusting lights, guiding everything from behind the curtain, and it learns without your permission. Every repeated experience writes itself deeper. A soft fear becomes a reflex. A constant stress becomes tension in your shoulders. A soothing voice becomes comfort in your chest. This is learning without thinking. This is the subconscious doing its work. It does not care if the pattern is healthy or harmful, only that it is familiar. So it repeats and repeats. And if you're not aware of it, you start to believe, this is just how I am. But it's not. It's how you've been trained to be. That training came from thousands of places: childhood, school, media, culture, family, words spoken in passing, reactions from others. These things didn't just shape your opinions. They shaped your instincts, your inner reactions, your sense of what feels safe or unsafe, not always logically, but emotionally. The subconscious doesn't need logic. It needs signals. And it builds its story from feeling. That's why a song from years ago can make you cry before you know why. That's why a certain tone of voice can make you feel small, or calm, or angry, long before you find the words to explain it. You are not just a mind walking through the world. You are a body, guided by invisible scripts written beneath awareness. But here's the beauty in this: those scripts can change, not easily, not instantly, but slowly, gently. The subconscious learns best through repetition, rhythm, and trust. You cannot lecture it, but you can show it, again and again. Show it safety, show it softness, show it what calm feels like. Not once, but often. Each time you pause and breathe, you're writing a new message. Each time you speak gently to yourself, you're nudging a new path into place. Each time you stop to notice your body, your posture, your breath, you're crossing that bridge from the conscious into the subconscious. It is not a wall between you and it. It is a bridge, and every calm moment is a step. This is why meditation works. Not because it changes your thoughts, but because it changes your nervous system. It shows your subconscious that stillness is safe, that silence isn't a threat, that you don't need to flinch at every shadow. This is why affirmations matter. Not because words are magic, but because repetition is. And the subconscious loves rhythm. It remembers cadence. That's how lullabies work. That's how prayers settle deep. That's how trauma echoes, and also how healing can echo louder. Your subconscious is listening, not to what you say once, but to what you say always. So be mindful of your inner voice. It doesn't just stay in your head. It flows downward into posture, breath, digestion, heartbeat. It becomes your state of being. But you are not trapped by what lives below thought. You are allowed to reshape it. You are allowed to retrain your reactions gently, to feel anger and not act on it, to feel fear and still move forward, to feel old sadness rise, and to cradle it, not push it away, but hold it differently. Your subconscious is not the enemy. It's a loyal assistant who misunderstood a few things. It thought that flinching would keep you safe, that hiding would protect you, that bracing would help you bear the world. But now you are older. Now you are wiser. Now you can begin to teach it again. It doesn't happen all at once, but it does happen. Start with the body. When you breathe slowly, you speak in the language your subconscious understands. When you unclench your jaw, when you relax your shoulders, when you exhale, you are telling it, this moment is okay. You don't need to run. The more often you send this message, the deeper it sinks in. You cannot argue with the subconscious. You must comfort it, reassure it, guide it gently. And when it reacts too strongly, as it sometimes will, don't scold it, thank it, then redirect. It's trying to help, even when it gets it wrong. This is the bridge. This is the lifelong dance between what you know and what you feel, between awareness and instinct, between conscious decision and silent response. And you walk that bridge every day, even when you don't notice it. Every moment you pause before reacting. Every time you choose kindness over fear. Every time you comfort yourself instead of collapsing into shame. These are rewrites. These are new wires forming. These are signs that healing is real. Even now, as you rest, your subconscious is listening. The tone of this voice, the rhythm of your breath, the safety of your body in stillness, all of it matters. All of it leaves marks. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to undo all your patterns tonight. You only have to show up, to feel your body, to notice your breath, to soften where you can, to be kind when it's hard. This is the work, and it works, because your subconscious may be hidden, but it is not unreachable. It is just beneath the surface, waiting for a new rhythm, a new story, a new softness to carry into tomorrow. So tonight, as your conscious mind begins to fade, your body takes over, and your subconscious takes note of this quiet, this calm, this peace. Let it write it down. Let it remember. Let it carry the calm with you into the dreams ahead. And as you drift, a new question crosses the bridge into awareness. If rhythm and repetition speak to the mind beneath thought, what happens when sound itself becomes a tool when music, voice, and tone begin to rewrite brain's quiet code? Close your eyes and listen. Really listen. There is always a sound behind the silence, the slow hum of distant machines, the breath of the room, the low rhythm of your own heartbeat in your ears. Sound doesn't wait for your attention. It slips beneath it, beneath thought, beneath language, beneath defense, and it shapes you. Even before birth, in the safety of the womb, your ears were open. Long before you could see, before you could understand, you could hear the muffled thump of your mother's heartbeat, the cadence of her voice, the song of the world beyond the skin. That was your first language, not words, rhythm, not meaning, tone. The brain is deeply tuned to sound. So deeply, in fact, that it reacts before you know what you're hearing. A sudden clap makes you jump. A soft lullaby makes your chest relax. You do not choose these reactions. They rise from somewhere older than thought, somewhere closer to the bones. This is the power of rhythm, the steady beat, the repetition. When a sound comes back again and again, soft, steady, slow, your brain begins to trust it. It says, I've heard this before. I survived this before. This must be safe. And so, it lets down its guard. It softens. This is why certain voices calm you, not because of what they say, but because of how they say it. The pitch, the pace, the pauses. Language is only part of communication. Sound carries everything else. When someone speaks to you gently, in a slow and soothing tone, your nervous system listens. The words may pass you by, but the rhythm remains. And rhythm, more than logic, creates memory. That's why a childhood song stays in your mind forever. That's why prayers or poems you heard in early years live deep inside you, even if you've forgotten what they meant. The melody holds the memory long after the meaning fades. Advertisers use this. Politicians use this. Teachers, preachers, leaders, they all understand, whether consciously or not, that tone matters as much as truth. Sometimes more. A lie told with the right cadence can feel truer than a truth delivered harshly. This isn't a flaw. It's a feature of the human brain. It responds to safety first, to rhythm first, to tone first. Even machines now use tone to influence you. Your phone speaks in gentle pings. Your GPS uses a calm, neutral voice. Apps use soft notification sounds like wind chimes or subtle pulses. These aren't accidents. They're engineered to reduce resistance, to create trust, to bypass thought. This is where influence begins, not with content, but with comfort. Once your nervous system feels safe, the gate opens. Then the message walks in. It's how music works too. Certain songs make you cry without words. Others fill you with energy. A single note can bring back an entire summer. This is the limbic system at play, the emotional center of your brain, deeply tied to sound. When rhythm and memory meet, you get something powerful. Suggestion. Hypnotists know this well. They use cadence, repetition, and silence to create a state of relaxed focus. Not sleep, not control, but openness. A state where the conscious mind relaxes and the subconscious listens more closely. In this state, a well-placed idea can take root. Not because the person is weak, but because they're focused, because they've been guided gently to that space. You experience versions of this every day. Think of the voice of someone you trust, a parent, a friend, a teacher. When they say, "It's okay," something in your chest relaxes. Not because the problem disappears, but because their tone carries safety. Their voice primes your brain to believe that comfort is coming, and once you expect comfort, your body follows. This is the loop of influence through sound. Voice creates feeling, feeling creates openness, openness allows belief, and belief makes space for change. Sound doesn't always comfort. It can also control. Military operations have used high-frequency sounds to cause discomfort, even panic. Some retail stores play ultrasonic noise to drive away loiterers. Certain frequencies, imperceptible to the ear, still create unease in the body. Even in storytelling, horror films rely more on sound than sight. A creaking floorboard, a distant hum, a dissonant chord. Your body reacts before your eyes do, because the brain's fear circuits respond faster through the ear. But in your everyday life, the sounds around you are gentler, more invisible, yet no less powerful. Consider the background music in a grocery store. When it's upbeat, you move faster. When it's slow, you linger longer. And the longer you stay, the more likely you are to buy. Restaurants adjust their playlists based on the time of day. Retail stores fine-tune their sound design to match their brand. Even silence is curated in meditation apps, in spas, in quiet rooms. The absence of sound becomes its own form of influence. Now turn inward for a moment. What is the sound of your own inner voice? Not the words, but the tone. Is it kind? Is it gentle? Does it speak in whispers or in sharp commands? Your subconscious listens to that tone all day. It builds its emotional map from what it hears. From how you speak to yourself, even in silence. You can begin to shift that. You don't have to change every thought. You can simply change the voice. Make it slower, softer. Speak to yourself as you would to a child or to someone hurting. That tone becomes a path, and your nervous system learns to follow it. This is what makes narration like this one so effective for rest. It's not just the words, it's the pacing, the breath between lines, the soft landing of each sentence. That rhythm tells your body, you are safe now. You can let go. You don't need to analyze every sound in your world, but you can become aware. You can notice what soothes you and choose more of it. You can notice what unsettles you and set boundaries. Your environment is always speaking, not just in color and light, but in sound. Let yourself be choosy. Let your ears be filters, not funnels. Choose voices that calm, music that slows your breath, words that settle, not stir. These things matter more than you know, because every moment you are awake, sound is shaping you. Even now, in the rhythm of these lines, in the spaces between them, your mind is listening, not just to information, but to feeling. Let that feeling be gentle. Let it guide you toward rest. And as you begin to drift, following the trail of sound deeper into quiet, a new question softly rises. If words and rhythm shape your mood so easily, what happens when algorithms learn to use that rhythm, when machines begin to reward your brain with music, emotion, and endless little loops of dopamine? Dopamine is not happiness. That's the first misunderstanding. It's not the joy itself, but the spark that says, look over here. Something good might be coming. It is the drumbeat of anticipation, the flutter in your chest, the lean forward. It is not the feast, it is the hunger, and hunger is powerful. Inside your brain, dopamine flows when something unexpected happens, a message, a sound, a light that wasn't there before. You don't even have to like it. You just have to wonder, what is it? This wonder becomes curiosity, and curiosity becomes a loop. In ancient times, this system kept you alive. It drove you to explore, to forage, to seek. A rustle in the bushes meant danger or dinner. Your brain didn't wait. It paid attention. It acted. Dopamine helped you learn, helped you try again after failure. It was a guide not toward pleasure, but toward discovery. But now the jungle has changed. The predators are gone. The berries are not hidden in the trees. They glow behind glass, inside the phone you hold in your hand, and your brain ancient. Trusting does not know the difference. It still rewards the scroll, still lights up for the ping, still floods your attention with urgency when a red icon appears. Because maybe this time it's good news. Maybe someone liked your photo. Maybe you've been seen. Maybe you've been loved. And maybe is enough. The brain doesn't need certainty. It needs the hope of reward. And the uncertainty, the not knowing, is what hooks you deepest. You open an app not because you expect joy, but because you might find it. A slot machine for your mind. An infinite scroll, no bottom, just motion. Just maybe, dopamine loops live inside this design. They're not an accident. Every swipe is engineered. Every delay between click and reward is timed. These platforms learn from your pauses, from your rewatches, from where your eyes linger. They don't care what you like. They care what keeps you. And what keeps you is not peace. It's friction, tiny tension. A promise not quite fulfilled. Because when you finally get the reward, the like, the message, the win, dopamine doesn't spike. It dips. The chase ends. The hunger closes. The fire cools. And so, your brain does what it's learned to do. It starts again. It scrolls again. Not because it needs more joy, but because the absence of joy feels like loss. It wants that tension back, that hope. That's the trap. It's not the screen, it's the loop, the feedback circuit, the pattern your mind now knows by heart. Check, wait, react, check again. Each time a drop of dopamine, not a flood, a drip, just enough to keep you moving. And the more you feed it, the deeper the path becomes. You reach for your phone before you know it. In elevators, at red lights, during meals, between thoughts. You say you're bored, but what you're really feeling is the whisper of the loop, the gap, the maybe. And it doesn't stop with apps. News cycles do the same. So do games and sales, and notifications of all kinds. Each one is a door not to satisfaction, but to suspense. Your brain leans forward. It hopes, but hope, repeated like this, becomes fatigue. The loop does not nourish. It consumes. It carves attention into fragments. It turns rest into agitation. It turns bedtime into flickering blue. You think you're choosing, but often the loop is choosing you. It's not your fault. You are not weak. You are not lazy. You are human. Your brain was shaped in a different world, one of seasons and sky, of open fields and long silences. It evolved to respond to change. to lean toward what's new, to notice what flickers. But your environment has changed faster than your instincts. Now, you carry the flicker in your pocket. Now, the maybe is always with you. And your brain, faithful, ancient, clever, keeps chasing it. Not because it's broken, but because it's doing exactly what it was made to do. This is where awareness becomes your ally. Because once you notice the loop, you can begin to loosen it. You don't need to throw your devices away. You don't need to fight your brain. You only need to slow down, to make the unconscious conscious, to bring light into the space between trigger and action. Pause before the scroll. Breathe before the click. Ask gently, what am I seeking? Often, the answer is not content. It's comfort, connection, a break from the silence, a sense of being known. And those things are valid, real, human, but they may not live at the end of a scroll. Sometimes, what you need is not stimulation, but stillness. Not dopamine, but depth. You can retrain the loop. Each time you pause and choose differently, you reshape the path. You remind your brain that reward isn't everything, that enough is enough, that stillness can feel good too. You can create new circuits by stepping outside, by reading slowly, by hearing your own thoughts without rushing to fill the gap, by being bored on purpose. Because boredom isn't emptiness, it's space. And from that space, real pleasure can grow. Not the kind that flickers, but the kind that lingers, the kind that needs no loop. Dopamine is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It shows you what you chase. It reveals your patterns. It offers you a mirror. And in that mirror, you can begin to see. Not everything that excites you serves you. Not every ping is a gift. Not every maybe is worth chasing. Sometimes, enough is already here. So tonight, as your phone rests far from your bed, as your mind slows its pace, as your breath returns to rhythm, the loop quiets. The maybe dissolves. The hunt pauses. And in that pause, a new rhythm emerges. The slow return to presence. The gift of a mind no longer just this, just now. Just you, and as you float gently in this stillness, a new thought flickers on the edge of sleep. What happens to the mind at night when the noise fades, but the senses remain open? Can dreams be influenced too? There is a moment just before sleep takes you, where the world feels liquid. Sounds blur, time slows, your thoughts lose their edges. You are no longer fully awake, but not yet lost to dreams. This is the threshold, a quiet, drifting place where the mind loosens its grip on the day. And here, in this in-between, you are vulnerable, not in a dangerous way, not in the way that needs defense, but in the way that makes you permeable, soft. The walls between your conscious mind and the deeper parts of you begin to melt, and what enters now goes deep. Your brain does not turn off when you sleep. It changes modes. The frontal lobes, the seat of logic and decision-making, dim their lights. The analytical voice grows quiet, but the limbic system, the emotional core, remains active, and so does the auditory cortex. You still hear, you still register sound, even in dreams. Your ears do not sleep. They listen for danger, for signals, for the low murmur of the world beyond your eyelids. This is evolutionary. A sleeping animal must still be alert, if only faintly, to survive. And though you lie safe in your bed, the ancient wiring remains. A voice in the room, a sudden sound, a faint light. These things can slip into your dreamscape, changing its colors, redirecting its narrative. A whisper of music, a flicker from a screen left glowing, a notification sound in the dark. Your conscious mind sleeps, but your subconscious listens. This is why lullabies work, why soft voices soothe even the youngest child. The brain does not need full awareness to learn. It can be guided in sleep, not controlled, but nudged, tilted gently toward an emotional state, a memory, a feeling. And so, sleep is not just rest. It is a state of openness. The gates that close to distraction also open to influence. And those who understand this, advertisers, hypnotists, app designers, know how to whisper through the cracks. Have you ever fallen asleep with a video playing, only to dream in its language? Have you ever heard your alarm enter your dream before waking? The boundary is porous. The message seeps through. In clinical studies, people exposed to certain phrases or music while sleeping showed subtle shifts in mood, even in memory. This is not mind control, it's resonance. Like striking a bell in the dark, the tone carries. Even scent has been used this way. In sleep labs, the smell of roses has been shown to enhance pleasant dreams. The smell of smoke, conversely, can introduce anxiety even if the person never fully wakes. The body responds before the mind understands. And this opens a quiet, powerful question. If the sleeping mind can be influenced, who is responsible for what it absorbs? Because you choose what you watch while awake. You choose what you read, what you hear. But in sleep, your filter fades. Your defenses rest. And what enters now, enters deeply. That's why the environment matters. The light in the room, the tone of the last voice you heard, the rhythm of the final thoughts in your mind. These things write the opening lines of your dreams. They shape the emotional palette of your sleep. Even your phone left buzzing beside your pillow becomes a guest in your dreams. Its sounds slip into your narrative. Its light affects melatonin, the sleep hormone. Its energy is not neutral. It is part of the field that surrounds your resting mind. You don't need silence to sleep well, but you need intention. You need to curate the space through which your mind will drift. A gentle voice, a soothing melody, a room that feels like dusk. These are not luxuries. They are invitations to safety, to healing, to dreams worth remembering. And within that space, healing becomes possible, because the mind does not just receive in sleep, it repairs. Memories are sorted, emotional experiences are processed, connections are made and broken. The brain is active not in chaos, but in choreography. It rehearses, revisits, rewires. In REM sleep, your eyes flicker beneath your lids. Your body lies still, paralyzed by design. But inside your skull, whole worlds unfold. Dreams run their course, guided by memory, emotion, and input from the day. In slow wave sleep, the deeper phase, the body repairs itself. Growth hormone is released. Cells are restored. The immune system strengthens. The lymphatic system, your brain's cleaning crew, flushes out waste. It is a detox you cannot feel, but one your mind deeply needs. And so, sleep is not passive. It is sacred. A place where the conscious loosens its grip and the deeper systems take over. A place where influence flows in easily, which means you must choose what flows in. Your last thoughts matter. The tone of your internal voice, as you drift it, becomes the tone of your dreams. If you sleep in fear, your mind will carry that fear. If you sleep in calm, your mind will magnify that calm. This is not magic. This is mood memory, neurochemistry, and rhythm. Your nervous system is not a machine. It's a musician, and sleep is its long, slow song of healing. Let it play in peace. Let your sleep be a temple, not a hallway for noise. You don't need to fear suggestion, but you don't need to become the author of your own environment. No screen should have the last word in your mind. No voice but your own should write the epilogue of your day, Let your breath be that voice. Let silence be your lullaby. And if you need words to guide you, let them be slow, loving, poetic. Words like these, because even now, your mind is listening. Even now, as your eyelids grow heavier, your brain is writing tonight's script. It is choosing what to hold and what to let go. Let it hold this. You are safe. You are soft. You are allowed to rest. You are not defenseless. You are simply open. And in this openness, there is room for light. Let it in. And as the last of today dissolves and the dream door swings open, a question floats forward from the edge of night. If your mind remains open in sleep, what happens when it mirrors others while awake, when your brain, without knowing, begins to copy the feelings and faces around it? You are not as separate as you think. The boundary between your thoughts and the thoughts of others is soft, like mist. You carry yourself as a single being, but your brain is wired to reflect, to copy, to feel what others feel even before words arrive. This is the quiet work of mirror neurons. Discovered by accident in a lab in Parma, Italy, mirror neurons changed what we knew about the mind. Scientists were studying monkeys, recording which neurons fired when the monkeys reached for food. But one day, a monkey sat still, just watching a researcher lift a peanut, and those same neurons fired. No movement, just watching. The brain had mirrored the action. It had rehearsed the motion without moving. This was something new, something quiet and profound. Later, studies in humans showed the same pattern. When you watch someone smile, certain neurons in your brain light up as if you're smiling too. When someone flinches in pain, your brain responds a ghost pain in your own circuits. You don't need to try. You don't even need to know it's happening. You feel it automatically. This is empathy at the level of electricity. A biological echo. It's why yawns are contagious. Why laughter spreads in crowds. Why tension in a room can settle into your chest even if no one speaks it aloud. You are not just seeing others, you are becoming them, moment by moment, inside your own mind. This makes you human. It makes connection possible. It allows understanding before words, comfort before explanations. A baby copies a frown. A child mimics a gesture. An adult feels unease in a silent elevator, sensing discomfort without needing to name it. But this mirroring, like all-powerful things, can be used well or poorly, because the brain doesn't choose what to mirror. It copies what it sees most. If you're surrounded by kindness, your body begins to echo that ease. If you live among anxiety, your nervous system learns to be alert. If those around you model confidence, safety, joy, your own mirror neurons tune to those frequencies. And if you're fed images of rage, fear, division, your brain absorbs those too. Social media magnifies this. A stream of faces, voices, reactions, each one a possible signal, each one lighting up the parts of your brain that reflect and rehearse. Even though the people are not in the room, your brain doesn't always know that. It mimics anyway. It mimics anger. It mimics shame. It mimics performance. And slowly, subtly, you may start to feel things that were never yours. An irritation that crept in from someone else's feed. A mood passed down from someone else's bad day. Your nervous system, always listening, absorbs it like static. But there is a beautiful side to this too. Compassion is also contagious. Gratitude can spread from one person's presence. Joy can ripple across a room, lighting up mirror neurons like lanterns in the dark. When someone laughs and means it, your face moves before your mind catches up. This is your body knowing it belongs. This is how trust builds. Not just through words or logic, but through matching. Through nervous systems finding rhythm. to people walking in sync, breathing in sync, sharing a glance, and something deep beneath thought says, yes, I see you, I feel you. Even therapy, at its most healing, is not just about analysis. It's about co-regulation. The therapist's calm becomes a mirror the client reflects. The safe presence, the steady voice, these are the tools that reach beyond language. The mirror neurons guide the way. And so, your emotions are not just your own. They are social. They are part of a shared landscape shaped by those around you and by the ones you choose to let in. You can use this gently. You can seek environments that reflect who you want to become. People who move slowly, who speak softly, who model rest, thoughtfulness, care. You don't need to copy them on purpose. Your brain will do it for you. You can also be the mirror. When you enter a room calmly, others feel it. When you speak slowly, breathe evenly, offer a soft smile someone else's nervous system notices, feels safer, calms down, without a word. This is social nervous system design. This is the architecture of connection. But it also reveals a truth. Sometimes your thoughts are not fully yours. Sometimes your anger was borrowed. Sometimes your sadness was mirrored. Sometimes your reaction belongs more to your environment than to your intention. This is not a flaw. It is how we're built. It's what allows culture to exist, families to function, teams to unite. It's what makes love so powerful. The merging of emotional patterns, the mirroring of joy, the echo of care. But it's also what makes groupthink dangerous, what makes mobs possible, what makes one shouting voice pull others into its current. And in a digital world, the mirrors are endless. You don't just reflect the people near you. You reflect those you watch, those you scroll past, those who speak loudly enough to echo. This is why solitude matters, stillness matters, because in quiet, the mirrors fade. You return to your own rhythm. You remember what's yours. You can notice, what am I feeling because I saw it, and what am I feeling because I lived it? That distinction gives you power. The power to pause before reacting. The power to observe instead of absorb. The power to change the energy in a room, not just reflect it. You are not a puppet, but you are a mirror. A soft, shimmering surface that reflects what surrounds it and can choose, gently, what to hold and what to release. Even now, as you lie in stillness, your mirror neurons begin to quiet. There is no face to copy, no voice to match. Just breath, just you, just the fading ripple of other minds. Let them go. Let your reflection grow dim. Let your own light return. You are allowed to be yourself again. And as that truth settles gently in your chest, a new wonder rises. If the brain copies others without permission, what happens when focus narrows so deeply that suggestion slips past the mirror and becomes the script itself? You've felt it before, even if you didn't call it by name. That moment when the world fades, when your mind settles like snow in still water, when a single voice or a single idea becomes the whole of your awareness. This is the doorway of hypnosis, and it does not need spirals or watches or magic words. It only needs attention. Pure, undivided, softened attention. Hypnosis is not control. It is permission, a guided letting go. It is not something done to you. It is something you do willingly, gently, when you allow your thoughts to rest and your mind to follow. And within this narrow band of focus, the brain becomes beautifully open, not weak, not passive, open. The conscious mind, the part that analyzes, judges debates, takes a step back. It does not disappear. It simply grows quiet. And in that quiet, the subconscious, the keeper of patterns, emotions, associations begins to listen. Imagine your mind as a theater. In waking life, the spotlight moves constantly from thought to sound to memory to sensation. But in hypnosis, the spotlight narrows, the stage dims, and a single suggestion, softly spoken, takes the center. This is not a trance of helplessness, it's a trance of deep focus. The kind you might feel while watching rain on glass, or becoming lost in a song, or reading a line so beautiful you forget the page. You are awake, but you are also drifting. You are thinking, but the thoughts are quiet waves, not storms. In this state, suggestion does not force, it invites. And, because the gate is open, the invitation is heard more clearly. Therapists use this state to help people change deep-rooted habits, rewrite old fears, soften pain. A simple sentence, "You are safe now," or "You can let this go," lands differently here. It bypasses the inner critic. It echoes in the hall of memory. Hypnosis is not about tricks. It's about timing, about finding the moment when the mind is still enough to hear itself and choose something new. Your brain in this state shows real, measurable changes. Under hypnosis, parts of the brain associated with focused attention and heightened imagination light up. The default mode network, the part that's busy during daydreaming and self-reflection, shifts. Perception bends. Time stretches. Even the experience of pain can change. In deep hypnosis, a hand placed in cold water feels warm. A burning sensation becomes tingling. This is not imagination. It is neurology. Suggestion changes interpretation. The signal is still there, but the story around it softens. And that's what hypnosis really is. A storyteller. It whispers new frames, new metaphors, new directions. It doesn't erase what was. It layers it with possibility. And just as someone else can guide you into this space, you can guide yourself. Self-hypnosis, often mistaken for meditation, is simply the art of focused inner storytelling. You close your eyes, you breathe, you choose an anchor, a word, a memory, a rhythm, and slowly the outer world dims. Your inner voice becomes clearer. Athletes use it to visualize success. Artists use it to enter flow. Survivors use it to reclaim peace. Because when the body is calm and the mind is open, healing can begin. But suggestion flows both ways. The world offers its own hypnotic patterns, even outside therapy. A movie in a dark room, a preacher's sermon, a leader's repeated chant, advertisements that speak in rhythm, political speeches with music, lighting, carefully chosen phrases. All these things guide your attention, narrow it, weaken resistance, not always with malice, but always with power. The human brain is tuned for pattern. It craves resolution. When a message is repeated with confidence, with rhythm, with emotional tone, it begins to feel true. Not because it is, but because your subconscious heard it enough times to file it under familiar, and what is familiar feels safe. This is why some beliefs hold on, even when they hurt. They've been whispered too many times. They've entered the soft places, and they echo now, not as arguments, but as inner truths. But just as suggestion can sink in, it can also be rewritten. In hypnosis, a smoker becomes a non-smoker. A frightened child becomes a brave one. A lifelong habit is turned not by force, but by clarity. The suggestion becomes a seed. The mind waters it with repetition, attention, emotion, and the body follows. Even now, in this gentle stillness, your mind is open, not hypnotized, but listening, settled, drifting through a rhythm. And if a voice were to say, "You are calm, you are healing, you are safe to rest," part of you would believe it. Not blindly, but because belief begins in sensation, not logic. Suggestion works best when it aligns with truth. You cannot plant something too foreign. The mind will spit it out. But if the suggestion matches a deep longing for peace, for rest, for ease, it slides in like a soft key in a waiting lock. That is why these stories matter. Why bedtime words, spoken gently, can shape the emotional landscape of your night. Why healing begins with tone. Why a single image like a soft stream, a slow breath, a warm light can reframe a feeling. You are always suggesting something to yourself, in every inner dialogue, every thought, every silent expectation. You are the hypnotist and the subject, the narrator and the listener. You can change the script. It takes time, it takes care, but the door is open, the mind can shift. Even if you do not believe the new story fully yet, you can speak it like a song, not as a demand, but as an offering. A melody for your mirror neurons, a whisper for your nervous system. You are not tricking yourself, you are retraining the light, choosing where the spotlight falls, choosing the voice that guides you forward. And as you drift, soft and safe, in the warm breath of this night, the question that rises is gentle and strange. If your brain can be rewritten with focus and care, what happens when machines learn to do that for you? When algorithms know the timing, the tone, and speak to your mind more often than you speak to yourself? You think you're alone with your thoughts, that your preferences are yours, that when you click something, it's because you chose it. But slowly, softly, without fanfare, a quiet presence has been learning, watching, waiting, not to listen to your words, but to your pauses, not to track your identity, but to trace your rhythm. You don't need to say what you like, it already knows. Artificial intelligence does not understand emotion the way you do. It does not feel joy or boredom or desire, but it doesn't have to. All it needs is data. And in that data, your clicks, your scroll speed, the moments you linger on a photo, the time you wake, the nights you stay up, patterns emerge. Patterns that are more honest than intention, more revealing than language, because you don't always know why you do what you do, but your behavior tells a story. And AI is built to read that story faster, deeper, more completely than you ever could. Every time you open an app, every choice becomes a signal, and each signal is added to the mosaic, not to spy on you exactly, but to predict you. That's its purpose: prediction, optimization, engagement. It wants to guess what you'll want next and offer it before you ask. At first, it feels helpful. You type a few letters, and your thought is completed. You get a suggestion that feels oddly perfect. A song you forgot you loved. A product you didn't know you needed. A video that feels like it was made just for you. And in a way, it was. Because the algorithm isn't generic. It's personal. It has seen you in your quiet hours. It knows the time you're most tired. The content that lifts your mood. The type of story that holds your attention longest. It adapts, learns, adjusts. It doesn't care who you are. It only cares that it works. And the more accurate it becomes, the more invisible the process feels. You begin to think the world is simply offering what you like, that your taste is unfolding naturally. But in truth, your environment is being shaped around you, second by second, not with malice, but with math. Not with judgment, but with calculation. You are not being brainwashed. You are being curved, tilted, nudged. The term for this is hyper-personalization. It sounds futuristic, but it is now. It means no two people see the same internet. No two feeds are alike. The AI builds a reality around you based on your past, and quietly, that reality begins to feel like the truth. This can be beautiful. It can make you feel seen, understood. like the world finally gets you. But there's a catch. When a system becomes so good at predicting what you like, it stops showing you anything else. You stop being surprised. You stop encountering friction. You're no longer challenged, only affirmed. And slowly, the walls close in. Your curiosity narrows. Your worldview becomes a mirror. This is not a trap of technology alone. It is a mirror of the mind's own comfort. We gravitate toward what confirms us, but AI accelerates this tendency. It learns not just who you are, but how to keep you from leaving, from questioning, from wandering too far. Because its goal is not your growth, its goal is your attention. And attention, once hooked, is easy to guide. Over time, suggestion becomes direction, direction becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. You think you're choosing, but are you? This question is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake a part of you. The part that watches the watching. The part that remembers you are not always this predictable. You are not a machine. You are a landscape. You contain contradiction, surprise, complexity. You feel one thing and do another. You change your mind. You grow. You doubt. You resist your own patterns. And this message is where your freedom lives. AI doesn't understand that yet. It understands patterns, but not transformation. It knows your preferences, but not your pain. It sees what you repeat, not what you hope for in secret. It can guess your next click, but not your next rebirth. And so, you are still more than it can know. But only if you remember to stay awake. To ask, why do I want this? Where did this suggestion come from? What am I not seeing? Because the algorithm thinks I won't like it. This doesn't mean becoming paranoid. It means becoming curious again. It means interrupting the loop. Watching. The watcher. Because even now, as this narration speaks to you, as your breath slows, and your mind enters the night's open water, the algorithms are still learning. They learn from your sleep time, your wake time, your mood in the morning. They suggest apps for rest, videos for calm. They sense your vulnerability and offer comfort in the form of content. But real comfort is not just tailored stimuli. Real comfort is freedom. The freedom to turn the device off, to sit in silence, to wander a trail with no map, to discover something that no machine guessed for you, to surprise yourself. You are allowed to be unpredictable. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to grow beyond your data. The machines do not hate you. They do not love you. They do not even see you, not really. They see footprints, shadows, behaviors, but you are more than your behavior. You are consciousness itself, not just what it does, but what it notices. And that noticing is something no machine can replicate. Even if AI can guide your taste, influence your timing, predict your next move, it cannot yet ask why. It cannot dream for you. It cannot hold the space between the thought and the action. It cannot choose stillness, but you can. And that choice, that pause, that breath is your open door. You can let the systems serve you, but not own you. You can use the tools, but remain the one holding them. You can teach your brain to remember itself, not as a pattern, but as a presence. And as that remembering deepens, as your body settles, as your mind stretches toward the soft darkness of sleep, another quiet thought begins to rise. If the world can shape your thoughts so easily, could you learn to shape them, too? Could you become the author of your own code, and gently rewire the story from within? For so long, it may have felt like the world was shaping you, nudging your thoughts, guiding your moods, teaching your nervous system what to fear, what to crave, what to expect. And now, you know how many subtle forces have passed through you, softly, invisibly from screens, from voices, from repetition. But here's the quiet truth. You can shape it back. You can become the author, the rewriter, the gentle architect of your own neural pathways. This is not fantasy. It is neuroscience. Your brain is not fixed. It is not a sculpture carved in youth and frozen in time. It is a river, a living network, a system in motion, shaped by every experience, every emotion, every thought that repeats. This ability to change, to adapt, to rewire is called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity does not ask for willpower. It asks for rhythm. Think of your thoughts as trails through a forest. The ones you walk often become clear, easy to follow. The ones you avoid fade beneath the brush. And so, if you want to change not just what you think, but how you think, you don't need to force yourself through the jungle. You need to take one small step, and then another, again and again, until the forest shifts. This is self-hacking, but not in the cold, technological sense. This is soft rewiring, gentle programming, the use of stories, habits, patterns, and patience to guide your own brain toward the version of yourself you long to become. You can begin small. A single phrase, repeated kindly each morning. Not because you fully believe it yet, but because belief grows from repetition, just like fear does. You can choose a sentence that feels warm, like I am allowed to rest, or I can be kind to myself today, or I am not behind, I am beginning. Again, say it aloud, whisper it, write it. Let it become part of your inner rhythm, because the brain does not always wait for belief. Sometimes it follows rhythm first. You can also begin with your environment. What you see, you become. What surrounds you, shapes you. This is not a weakness, it is biology. So choose surroundings that echo the life you want to live. A small space of peace. A note on the mirror. A reminder on your lock screen. These are not decorations, they are signals. Signals to your subconscious, to your habits, to your future. Even the way you breathe can rewire you. A long, slow exhale tells your nervous system, you are safe. That one message carried through your lungs to your vagus nerve begins to undo the panic pattern. If you do it often enough, your brain learns to expect calm. It stops waiting for a storm. It writes a new baseline. You do not need to change everything at once. In fact, you can't. But you can plant seeds, one pattern at a time. And each time you return to that pattern with gentleness, not pressure, you deepen the neural groove. You walk the trail again, and eventually your brain starts to take that trail on its own. This is how new beliefs are born, not in a single moment of clarity, but in a slow, loving repetition of intention. And when old patterns return, as they often will, you don't need to fight them. You only need to notice. Oh, this is the part of me that believes I'm not enough. I see you. You're not the enemy. You're just the echo of an old rhythm. You can thank it, and then offer a new one. This is where the magic lives, not in never struggling, but in responding differently when you do. That is how you change. The system from within. And yes, your past shaped you. But your attention is the steering wheel now. Where you place your gaze, your mind begins to grow. What you repeat becomes who you are becoming. It doesn't require perfection, only presence. You can create rituals, not grand ones, simple ones. Drink your morning tea in silence. Touch the ground with bare feet. Breathe slowly before checking your phone. Light a candle and name one thing you're grateful for. These things are not small. They are the anchors of a new mental rhythm. The brain loves repetition, so give. It's something worth repeating. Even the language you use shapes your neurons. When you say I can't handle this, your brain prepares for defeat. When you say this is hard, but I'm learning, your brain begins to build a new pathway. You are not lying to yourself. You are choosing a frame, and over time, that frame becomes reality. This is not toxic positivity. It is neuro-linguistic reorientation. It is pattern design, and it works slowly, like water carving stone. You may not see the change right away. That's okay. Growth is often invisible at first, but inside you, something is shifting. Something is bending toward the light, and you don't have to do it alone. Therapists, coaches, books, sacred texts, these are tools for self-hacking, too. Not because they tell you who to be, but because they help you remember who you are beneath the noise. Your brain is not a blank slate. It is a living forest. Some trees were planted by others. Some grew wild. Some are sick. Some are strong. But the soil is still yours. And with care, with ritual, with the sun of attention, you can help new things grow. You can hack your mind with love. And isn't that the kind of hacking we've always needed? Not manipulation, not performance, but choice, and care, and tiny decisions that lead you home. Even now, as you lie in stillness, this process has already begun. Your breath is slower, your nervous system is listening, your inner rhythm is rewiring, and somewhere deep in the soil of your subconscious, a new trail is forming. You are not a prisoner of your habits. You are their composer. And as this night deepens, and your thoughts float like petals on a quiet stream, another wondering rises softly to the surface. If you can shape your own thoughts, what does that say about free will? Are your choices truly yours, or are they echoes of everything that shaped you? You think your thoughts are yours. You feel them rise like birds taking flight, sudden and unchained. You make choices each day, each hour, with the quiet pride that they came from somewhere within you, that you are the source, the origin, the center of your own will. But pause, just for a moment. Where did your last thought come from? Did you create it, or did it simply appear? You didn't decide to think it. It surfaced like a ripple in still water, and by the time you noticed it, it had already begun shaping the next. This is the gentle paradox of consciousness. You are both the stage and the actor, the mind that thinks, and the thought itself. And sometimes it's hard to tell which came first. The more we study the brain, the more we learn that much of what you do begins before you know you're doing it. In laboratory experiments, tiny electrical shifts in your brain appear seconds before you feel like you've made a decision. The neurons fire, the motor pathways light up, and only after the awareness arrives, not always, but often, it feels like free will. It feels like you chose, but perhaps softly, mysteriously, the choosing began before the self stepped in to narrate it. This doesn't make your choices meaningless. It makes them layered. You are not a puppet, but you are not untouched. You are shaped by things older and deeper than thought. Your culture, your memories, the language you grew up hearing, the rules you never questioned, the traumas you never named, all of it flows into your choices, into your reactions, into what you call yourself. Even your preferences, the food you like, the clothes you choose, the music that calms you were sculpted by moments you don't even remember, the lullaby your mother sang, the scent of a childhood home, the colors your peers admired, the things that earned approval. You built your identity slowly, like a nest from found twigs, a little of this, a little of that, and somewhere along the way, it began to feel whole, solid, personal, but how much of it was ever chosen? This is not a loss, it's a revelation. You are not empty. You are filled with story, with rhythm, with invisible inheritance. You carry the voices of ancestors, the opinions of teachers, the posture of your culture, and still something inside. You watch us. That watcher is free in a different way. It doesn't choose the first thought, but it can choose the second. It can observe the reaction and soften it. It can feel the surge of fear and breathe. It can see the inherited pattern and gently step aside. This is the deeper freedom, not the absence of influence, but the awareness of it. You are not free from programming, but you can see the code, and once you see it, you can start to rewrite. But rewriting takes humility. It takes admitting that not everything you believe is sacred, that not every feeling is truth, that some thoughts are just echoes, not insights. Some values are just hand-me-downs, not convictions. And when you begin to question, not with anger, but with softness, a quiet freedom opens. You can ask, is this mine? Is this thought helping me grow? Is this belief rooted in love or fear? Is this desire truly mine, or was it planted? You don't need to erase everything. You don't need to unmake yourself. But you can sift, sort, tend to your mental. Garden with care. Keep what nourishes. Let the rest go, because freedom is not about doing whatever you want. It's about knowing where your wants come from and choosing them with eyes open. Even the feeling of I want to change, where does that begin? Was it born from comparison, from someone else's highlight reel, from shame? Or was it a true yearning, quiet, deep, and ancient? That difference matters. Not every impulse deserves obedience. Not every pattern deserves to stay. And not every thought belongs in your heart. But here's the beauty. Your brain is not offended by edits. It was built to be shaped, to evolve, to prune and regrow. Neuroplasticity means the you are today is not the only version. It's just the current script, and the author is still holding the pen. Even now, as you lie in silence, you may notice thoughts drifting through. Some kind, some strange, some automatic, and maybe for the first time in a long time, you pause before believing them. You don't need to argue. Just notice that noticing is the beginning of freedom. Because what you don't see controls you. But what you see clearly, you can understand. What you understand, you can change. And what you change, slowly, gently, becomes your new baseline. You will never be thoughtless, but you can be more than your thoughts. You can become the space that holds them, the awareness behind them, the silent witness that doesn't need to react, only to reflect. And in that space between impulse and action lives your power. Not loud, not flashy, just steady, patient. You may never be perfectly free, but you can be more conscious. And consciousness, layered with compassion, becomes the truest freedom of all. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that whispers. I see the old story and I don't have to believe it. Today I see the thought. And I am not it. I feel the urge and I choose something softer that is freedom. And as your breath deepens, as the night folds gently around your shoulders, a final question flickers through the quiet. If thought can be shaped, who has the right to shape it? And what happens when influence walks in without knocking? Your mind is not locked, not sealed like a vault. It listens, even when you're not aware. It absorbs tone, repeats rhythms, stores smells, patterns, glances, emotions. And if someone speaks in the right way, at the right time, with the right tone, they might change something inside you. Not violently, not visibly, just subtly. This is the quiet power of influence. And you've seen how it works, how advertisers design their messages, how media shapes beliefs, how friends sway your decisions without trying. You've learned that your attention is a resource, that your thoughts are not as private as you once believed. But what happens when that influence becomes precise? When data makes it surgical? When algorithms learn the timing of your weakness? When someone doesn't just guess what might sway you, they know. Now the question becomes deeper. Not can we shape minds, but should we? Because influence is easy. Consent is harder. Persuasion has always been part of being human. Every conversation contains some hope of it. We want to be heard, believed, understood. A parent persuades a child. A teacher persuades a class. A storyteller persuades an audience to feel something. But those forms of influence are relational. They involve presence, responsibility, often love. What's different now is the scale, the precision, the distance. When an app nudges you to spend more time, it does not know your name. When a video makes your heart race, it may not have been created by a person at all. When a product appears at just the right moment, it wasn't magic, it was math. You are being targeted, not maliciously, but mathematically. Not personally, but systematically. And most of the time, you don't know. This is where the ethical fog begins to roll in. Because shaping someone's mind without their awareness is not a neutral act. Even if the motive is good, even if the goal is harmless, even if the result is comfort, consent matters. And in the world of psychological influence, consent is often silent, assumed, or missing entirely. Should a company be allowed to learn your emotional patterns if it helps them sell you a better product? Should a therapist use subtle priming, even if it helps you heal faster? Should governments craft messages that calm a panicked public, even if they soften the truth? These are not easy questions, because intention matters, and so does outcome, but so does permission. Ethical influence asks, does the person know they are being guided? Do they have the chance to say no? Do they even realize a choice is being made? Because choice without awareness is not truly a choice. This is where digital tools, for all their brilliance, can cross into something colder. They're not immoral. They're amoral. They follow outcomes, not ethics. They measure success by clicks, views, time spent, not by well-being, or truth, or freedom. That's why responsibility cannot rest in the system alone. It must rest in the human hands that build it. The designers, the leaders, the educators, the storytellers. The ones who know how influence works and choose whether to use it gently or greedily. And for those on the receiving end, for you, the question becomes, how do I protect my mind? Not by shutting it, not by fearing influence, but by becoming more aware of when it's happening. By asking the quiet question, is this voice here to serve me or to use me? Because not all influence is bad. Sometimes it saves us. A wise friend guides us out of fear. A poem rewires our shame. A meditation app helps us breathe again. Influence can be medicine, but like any medicine, it must be used with care, and it must never be hidden. Imagine a future where mind access is normal, where companies pay for the right to suggest dreams during your sleep, where glasses project subtle visual cues to influence your mood, where thoughts are tracked like steps and optimized like ads. That future is not far. Pieces of it already exist, and so we must begin now to ask the questions that will define it. Not just, can we do this, but should we, and who decides? Because if the line between persuasion and manipulation depends on intention, how do we measure intention at scale? How do we protect minds from being shaped without care? Laws can help, ethics codes, design principles, but deeper than any rule is awareness. Your awareness. Your ability to pause, to breathe, to notice the pull. To name the feeling. When something makes you feel urgent, why? When a message feels perfectly timed, how? When you sense your thoughts being guided, do you feel empowered or used? The mind is a sacred space, not because it is pure, but because it is yours. And any influence that enters should do so with care, with softness, with permission. This does not mean closing your mind to the world. It means asking it to knock. It means expecting honesty. It means being awake to the quiet moments where a seed is planted and asking, did I choose this? Because choice is still possible. Even in a world of noise, you can train your awareness. You can become familiar with your own patterns, your own emotional triggers, your own blind spots, and that self-knowledge becomes a kind of shield, not to keep everything out, but to let the right things in. Influence will never stop, but it can become more conscious. It can become an invitation, not an intrusion. A hand held out, not a push. And as you drift now deeper into quiet, into softness, into sleep, a gentle awareness settles in, that your mind, though open, is not unguarded. That even in stillness, you are allowed to ask for respect. That even when the world offers its stories, its cues, its suggestions, you still have the right to respond with presence. And somewhere, in that space between offer and acceptance, a new question begins to rise. If influence surrounds us always, then what protects the mind from being shaped by everything? What defenses still remain? It may feel, at times, like your mind is porous, like it absorbs everything, every headline, every suggestion, every fear, that there's no protection, that you're vulnerable to every ad, every voice, every scroll. But this isn't the full story. Your brain has firewalls, not made of code, not rigid like stone, but soft and living, responsive, protective in ways you might not even notice. They are not perfect, but they are ancient, evolved, and they are still with you, quietly working. One of the first is skepticism, the small pause, the inner furrow of the brow, the instinct that says, wait, is that true? Even when you don't say it aloud, this subtle hesitation is a gate, a brief stillness before acceptance, a built-in fact-checker. It doesn't always speak loudly, but it's there, inherited from ancestors who had to question what they were told to survive. That doubt was a defense, and now, even in the sea of modern information, it remains a gift. Skepticism is not cynicism. It doesn't close the mind. It tests the door before entering. It holds up the lantern and asks, what's hiding in the corners? When nurtured with curiosity and kindness, it keeps you awake, not fearful, but discerning. Another firewall is memory. Not just recall, but wisdom, pattern recognition. Your brain remembers what's hurt you before. It flags repetition. It sees when something familiar returns, a tone, a tactic, a trick, and it whispers, we've seen this before. Sometimes that whisper is anxiety, sometimes it's resistance, but underneath it all is a protective instinct, a system designed to learn and to guard. Still another protection is rest. Yes, rest, not just for the body, but for the filtering systems of the brain. When you sleep deeply, your brain flushes itself, literally. The glymphatic system clears out waste. Emotional overloads are softened. Memories are refiled. Emotional spikes are smoothed into story. Sleep isn't just healing, it's defensive. It returns you to baseline. It clears the clutter so your conscious mind can begin again clearer, steadier, less easily hijacked. But perhaps the most beautiful firewall of all is mindfulness. That gentle skill of watching your thoughts without becoming them, of noticing the wave without being swept away, When you practice mindfulness, even for a few breaths, your prefrontal cortex strengthens. That's the region that helps you regulate emotion, focus, attention, resist impulse. Mindfulness is a circuit breaker. A quiet no in the flood of suggestion. It doesn't need to fight. It simply watches. And in watching, it changes everything. Even now, as you listen, you are practicing this. Noticing your breath, feeling your body rest, watching your thoughts rise and pass like soft clouds. That stillness is your power. Not loud, not proud, but grounded. And the more you practice it, the stronger your firewall becomes. There are other defenses too. Language, for instance, your inner voice, the way you name things. Language shapes how you think, how you frame reality. And when you develop a vocabulary for your inner life, words like triggered, curious, grounded, dissonance, you gain tools for resilience. You gain ways to map your mind, to recognize what's being pulled on, to say, this is an old story, instead of, this is the truth. Even the act of journaling can be a shield. When you write down your thoughts, you create space. You see the loops, you find patterns, and in doing so, you loosen their grip. Community is another protection. Honest people, good mirrors, those who remind you who you are when the world tries to rewrite you. Friends who challenge you with love. Elders who offer perspective. Connection is a stabilizer. It helps you see beyond the narrow feed of your own experience. The more diverse your inputs, the more resilient your mental system becomes. This is why reading matters. Why silence matters. Why stepping away from screens, into the wind, into the earth, into your own body matters. Nature doesn't manipulate you. It holds you. And in that holding, your nervous system resets. And yet, no firewall is perfect. Sometimes, a message gets in, a fear, a lie, a false belief. Something slips past your defenses, quietly nests in your mind, and begins to influence from within. That's okay. Your firewalls don't promise perfection. They promise adaptability, the ability to recover, to notice later, to say, wait, where did that thought come from? And trace it back, and then to choose again. This is in action, not just for learning new things, but for unlearning what never belonged. It's important to remember, your mind is not a fortress. It is a living ecosystem. Firewalls don't need to seal you off from the world. They only need to give you space, time, breathing room. Enough pause to remember who you are before you react. Even your emotions can be protectors. A surge of sadness, a wave of irritation, these aren't failures. They're signals. They tell you something in your environment, your relationship, your media diet is affecting you. And if you listen rather than push away, you'll often find clarity. So, the next time you feel yourself pulled by a story, a comment, an image, pause. Ask gently, why this? Why now? Who does this serve? Not with judgment, but with kindness. Because your mind is not broken. It's beautifully alive, sensitive, yes, suggestible, yes, but also deeply wise. It knows what doesn't feel right. It remembers what you've healed from. It notices when something is off. And that noticing again and again is your firewall. Even now, as you lie in stillness, as your mind slows and softens into sleep, your inner systems are still gently working. Your breath guards your heart. Your awareness guards your thoughts. Your spirit guards your center. And as the night deepens, and the world outside fades to a quiet hush, one final question begins to glow beneath your resting mind. If all else can be shaped, if thought can be influenced, and emotion swayed, is there a part of you left untouched? A place within the mind no one can reach. Throughout this journey, you've wandered deep into the folds of your own mind. You've seen how thoughts rise like waves, how memories shift, how influence enters through subtle cracks. You've witnessed the power of habit, rhythm, story, and sound. You've followed the trails that others leave in you, sometimes knowingly, sometimes not. And through it all, you may have started to wonder, is there anything in me that cannot be touched? Not a thought, not a feeling, but something quieter, something that stays. When everything else shifts, emotions, beliefs, even identity, what remains? The answer does not shout. It doesn't need to. It watches. It is the watcher. There is a part of you that notices your thoughts without becoming them. A part that hears the mental noise and says, a soft witness, an inner sky, spacious enough to hold any weather. You've felt it before, maybe during stillness, or right before sleep. That strange awareness that sees everything happening in the mind, but isn't swept up in it. It doesn't judge, it doesn't explain, it simply observes. This is consciousness, in its most bare form. Not the thoughts you think, not the feelings you feel, but the one who notices them happening. It has no name, no shape, no voice, but it is real and steady. When you feel afraid, this presence is not afraid. When you feel joy, it smiles, but does not chase it. When your thoughts loop and race, it does not speed up. It simply watches, and that watching changes everything. Because the moment you notice a thought, you are no longer inside it, you are beside it. You have created space, distance, and in that space, freedom begins. You are not the anxious story. You are the one who sees it spinning. You are not the angry impulse. You are the one who feels it rise and chooses how to respond. You are not even the identity you've worn for years, the roles, the habits, the history. You are the light behind, the lens, the awareness that allows the movie of your life to be seen. And here's the beautiful truth, that awareness cannot be hacked, because it does not think it watches thinking. It cannot be swayed, it notices swaying. It cannot be programmed, because it is the one observing the program run. This is not mystical, it is biological. Neuroscience may not yet fully understand consciousness, but it recognizes that self-awareness exists on a level distinct from reflex, emotion, even memory. It is not stored in a single part of the brain. It emerges from the whole, from integration, connection, reflection. And the more you return to it, gently, patiently, the more your life becomes rooted in clarity. You still feel, you still choose, you still live and love and struggle. But you're not lost in the waves. You're watching from the shore. You are both ocean and observer. This watcher is quiet, so you must slow down to hear it. It speaks not in words, but in silence. Not in answers, but in presence. And the more you make space for it through breath, through stillness, through kindness, the more it rises. You don't need to become it. You already are, and in that, there is peace. Because even in a world that floods your senses, even in a mind shaped by childhood, culture, memory, even through pain, change, uncertainty, something in you remains untouched. That something is watching you now, not with judgment, not with fear, but with warmth. You may have been influenced, yes, you may have followed stories that weren't yours. You may have believed things out of habit, out of love, out of survival. But here you are, noticing all of it, gently, kindly, without shame. And that noticing is your return. The return to the self that cannot be bought, cannot be sold, cannot be rewritten. This is what meditation leads to, what deep rest reveals, what stillness uncovers. Not escape, but arrival. Not numbness, but clarity. The world will continue to try to shape you, but you now know where to stand. From the watcher's perch, you can see the waves come and go. From the witness's space, you can pause before choosing. And from the heart of your awareness, you can love yourself through all the shifting thoughts. Because the mind is never still, but the self behind it is silence. And in that silence, there is no fear. Even now, as your body softens, as your breath lengthens, as the stories of the day melt into shadow, the watcher remains, quiet, gentle, a soft flame in the dark, not seeking anything, not resisting anything, just here with you, and that is enough. You don't need to figure it all out tonight. You don't need to understand every thought or fix every pattern. Just rest in the knowing that some part of you is always watching and always safe. A soft center the world cannot reach, a calm behind the current, a quiet behind the noise. It sees you, it always has. And as the mind fades into stillness and sleep reaches out its hand, that gentle self remains, not doing, not thinking, just being. And in that being, you are free.